Brennan, how long after when Chris Beatty took the job with the Chargers, how quickly did you kind of look at the Pitt job?
Pretty quick. I got word that he was leaving, and a lot of people from Pittsburgh reached out to me, and just really was excited about even the opportunity to even interview for the job. Just trying to find a way to get a connection to Coach Narduzzi and get in the role.
Had you had a connection with Coach Narduzzi before this, Brennan?
No, no, not at all.
What was your first impression?
I really love Coach. We went to an Italian restaurant, so we went to DeFazio's over there, and it was great just to he's a normal guy. He's a football guy. He's from Ohio, Youngstown. I have family that lives in Youngstown, so it was good, really good.
Brennan, is a bit surreal to kind of be back in this capacity after leaving Pittsburgh so many years ago.
Yeah, this was always like one of the destination stops where you want to be. Obviously back home, and to come back, how I left, going off to junior college, and kind of the story that's kind of shaped from that to coming back here. I mean, I've always came back and recruited and helped kids, had community events and stuff, but to come back in this role, it's very surreal to come back here as a coach.
Brennan, looking back on your career, it seems to me you're a guy that really loves the game. I mean, you suffered and endured all those knee injuries. Then you had a situation in junior college where the coach couldn't find you housing. How difficult was it to keep playing football amidst all that?
Like I teach all the players that I come in contact with. My mom she kind of showed me this growing up, but it's like I don't operate on how I feel. If you love something, you're committed to it. I've been committed to football since I was 5 years old, and I don't operate on how, what's going on in the midst of my circumstances. I just continue to keep pushing and going forward. So for me, it's just like something happens. It's like, okay, boom, you pray about it, you keep moving forward.
You've already had a lot of stops in your career. How much do you kind of embrace the climb you've been on in just a relatively short amount of time?
It's really, I really just keep the players first, and they've just continued to push me up. I mean, I've just always been all about the players and promoting them and being in great relationship with them, lifelong relationship, and that's really how it just keeps going. It's really what your players do. That shows what type of coach you are, and that's what's kind of helped me.
Brennan,
How do you go about go ahead, John?
Oh, no, it's all good, Jeff. Go ahead.
Go about evaluating your receiver core, and what are the best things they can do to make a good first impression on you?
Right now, the biggest thing that we're doing is creating a relationship. I think anytime you want to drive results, it's relationship driven on how you drive somebody else. I mean, obviously, I didn't recruit these guys out of high school, as far as so we don't have that rapport. So right now, we're just building a trust factor. Obviously, with film and all those things, I'm able to go back, look at their high school tape, look at what they did well in the season, what's their strengths and weaknesses from a film standpoint. But the only way that I'm going to get them better is by creating that relationship with them. And that's what we're doing now.
Brennan, how integral do you think those go-go concepts were in kind of landing the job in the first place? And do you get the sense that some of those might be implemented here at Pitt?
I think anytime you do something different, not many times in football can you do a lot of things differently. The game's been going on for 150 years. So for me, those things really helped bring me to the forefront of college football when I was at small schools and able to do some of those things. It helped me out. My players did really well executing those game plans that we had. And then here, with Coach Whip, we actually, we share a lot of the same thought process on things. And, Coach Borbs, offensive line guy, Coach Powell, Coach Salem, we have prior people that we've known throughout the coaching ranks. So it helps us, I come in and my input is valued. It's not like, you can't say anything when I come in the room. It's actually like, Brennan, what would you do here? So I think that we'll definitely have some things that will go in and help us, put more points on the board.
Brennan, can you define the go-go offense for us, what exactly it does and how you came about devising it?
Really what it does is You know, when I was out in California, I was watching De La Salle, and they just obviously win all the time. They run the triple option. It was the hardest thing to stop, the veer option. And I didn't want to run veer or anything like that. I wanted to run the normal, you know, run plays and stuff. And so we basically, every normal run play that you could think of in football, when you put the two backs side by side, you can run the triple option off of that. So you can do the triple option with the back or the receiver. So every single time you have multiple options for the quarterback, then you can turn it into RPOs, second and third level reads down the field. And it really just gives it the ability to play without an offensive line. You know, when I was first starting out as a high school head coach, taking over really bad football teams, the thing that's always, you know, if you're not sound in the trenches, you know, you're going to really struggle in football. And, you know, for me, I'm too competitive to just say, okay, we're not good enough, we're going to lose, you know, and I just want to find something that I could give us an opportunity to win games and put points on the board. And that's what it did. You know, when you look at where we were at with Howard, William, and Marion in high school, even at Hawaii, we used some of the stuff last year, and it really gives you an opportunity to make a big play, even though you're lacking something up front.
Brennan, when you look on tape, you know, I know you said you're forging relationships. When you look on tape, you know, Pitt's had a freshman all ACC guy like Jordan Addison. They got veteran guys, you know, who've been around for a few years. What are things that some of jump off the screen about the things like that you like, don't like, and where you see this group going?
I think we have, when you talk about our receivers right now, we have great individual play. I think they play, you know, they all have came up with some big plays and different spots. I think the biggest thing that we have to work on is being more focused, as being a united group, playing harder, you know, playing to the end of the whistle, things of that nature. I think that we have great individual talent. I think we just have to put it all together, you know, as a whole on offense.
Brennan, you have local ties and you've been all over the place. So, like on the recruiting trail, I mean, do you have any specific areas you're planning to hit, or just kind of looking for the best talent anywhere?
Yeah, the great thing, you know, I used to think it was a curse when I was a kid when you move around so much and, you know, all that type of stuff. But the good thing about when you do that is you have relationships everywhere. And I kind of can communicate with kids because I understand the language of where they're at, you know, the different slang terms and stuff that they use and the communities that they're from, because I've lived in there, or I've had a teammate from there, or worked with somebody from there, you know. So I've lived in all the hotbeds of recruiting. I mean, so I've lived in California, I've lived in Florida, I lived in Pennsylvania, you know, Georgia, a lot of different places, you know, and have family places. So, and coached in different places. So that really helps me in recruiting. I think that's my edge, you know, for recruiting. I can get around people, understand them, and ultimately get them. I mean, it's about gettability. You have to be able to get the player.
Coach, you seem to hit the ground
Casey,
running since you've been home. What's the best thing about being back in Pennsylvania for you so far?
The food. No, I mean, you know, Pittsburgh to me is a very special place. Obviously, everything that I've taken out in the world since I left Western PA, you know, the toughness is what drives us here. You know, we come from a lot of different tough circumstances and backgrounds, and we're able to go out into the world. Pretty much all the people that I meet from Pittsburgh around the world, all the way out to Hawaii, are pretty successful, and they all equated to their upbringing in Pittsburgh. So that's one of the things that it really, really helps you with.
Brennan, building off of your response, you talked about the food in Pittsburgh. I saw you posted, you said you've been to Mineos 3 times since you've been back. Is Mineos, this is very important, is Mineos the best pizza in Pittsburgh? We got to know, man.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I mean, that's because, like, my mom, you know, she does it. When I was a kid growing up, we wouldn't go anywhere else but Mineos. So I really don't even know what else is going on. If we ate pizza, it was Mineos. So I don't, you know, people's telling me there's other better pizza. I don't know. I eat Mineos. So that's kind of my deal. I'm a creature of habit. So.
Brennan, Casey Kavanaugh tells me that if not for your knee injuries, he believes you would have played on Sundays. Do you believe that?
I mean, if you look back at any coach that I've had from the NFL, you know, they'll all tell you the same thing. I was in the starting lineup. I was very intelligent player. I mean, I was right where I needed to be, and I was probably 5-6 months off ACL surgery, and I worked my way into the starting lineup. So kind of just leave it as it is. You know, I don't know, I guess.
Brennan, has dealing with that made you a better coach, do you think?
Yeah, getting hurt taught me patience. I didn't have much patience. I really didn't think about the process of things. Really, when I was a football player, I've worked to like the reason why I got hurt, honestly, is because I was like a gym rat nonstop, 7 days a week, 2 and 3, 4, 5 workouts a day, certain days, played basketball after I did football. So I really just never stopped working out. And eventually that just tore my body up. So it helped me like learn patience and learn how to, deal with things, with players and people as well.
Did you realize you wanted to go into coaching very quickly after you realized you weren't going to be able to continue to play after your injuries?
I've always been obsessed with football. Like some people like it, love it kind of, like so I kind of relate to a lot of different people when it comes to football because I was the guy who I would write out all the players when they got drafted. I'd import them in the game. I'd create football leagues within the community, like fantasy, like all that. I mean, I love every single thing that comes with football, like every piece of it, every part of it. So for me, like I always knew that I wanted to be involved in football and coach. I mean, I've been creating plays every day since I was like 5, 6 years old. And, like I remember when I played for Coach Malzahn at Tulsa, he was the OC. He would let me tell him what plays we needed to call and stuff certain times. So for me, I wanted to get into coaching. I didn't think that my career would end that, I didn't think that it would happen that way. When, like we just talked about, I went from being projected like a first or second round pick. I tore my ACL. Then I get to the starting lineup again and on a professional team, and then I tear my ACL again. I'm like, man, if I could just stay healthy, I know I'll be good. But then when that didn't occur, when I first started coaching out in California, it was actually a guy whose aunt or uncle lived in Greensburg, and he gave me a shot as a coach, and it just changed my life. I really didn't even think about playing football anymore. Once I started coaching, it was just like, man, this is it.
Brennan, can you remember a play that you drew up as a kid that you ended up using in a game?
Yeah, we scored at William and Marion on the old school 28 sweep. So, that was one of the deals where, just out leverage, motion the guy down, boom, flip it outside and just let the fast guy run to the edge. And we used that play in a college game and it worked. But ultimately, a lot of people have ran that play.
And which job was that where you first got introduced to football, where you said a friend of yours got you hooked?
So one of my friends, Sam, he played junior college with me. He's an agent now. I was really depressed and down, dealing with the injury. So the first year that I got hurt, I kind of just rehabbed my knee, made a whole bunch of money and didn't do anything, just was like kind of lost. And he was like, man, you need to coach, you need to do something. So as I was rehabbing my knee, I went over to James Logan High School in Union City, California. Coach Zuber gave me an opportunity. He said, just go out there with the kids and do that stuff you guys were doing at Tulsa. You were the #1 offense in the country. Like, just run that stuff and help them out. And, ultimately I had like 3 or 4 kids living with me. Those kids really came from rough environments, rough situations. I thought my life was hard. Those guys, I mean, I had a kid from Oakland living in the car with his dad and family living, and I was like, man, I'll take you in. Like, I just can't take your whole family in, but I'll help you out. So just different things like that. Those kids really saved and changed my life. The football part of it's always been easy for me. I mean, I love that. I think about that nonstop all day, but the relationship piece was big. What really got me into coaching.
Brennan, I asked you about your first impression of Pat Narduzzi. What was it like playing for Todd Graham?
Man, Coach Graham, we really related from the standpoint that I was like, when I was young, I was really, really tough, hard-nosed, and Coach, when he was a young, energetic coach at Tulsa, he was all about toughness. So me and him really meshed well on when it came to that. I just really felt like I could impose my will and be tougher and outwork people and stuff like that. And Coach, that's back when he was sleeping in the office and, a young coach at Tulsa. So we really related from the work ethic and toughness standpoint.
Brennan, about your with your story, you talked about how you were younger, like you would push yourself even when times maybe you should have slowed up, when you were recovering on your knee injuries, and you know, the lessons that you learned through them, how does that help you? How does that help you sometimes realize like, hey, I need to get through to this player who, you know, maybe because they've worked so hard to get where they are, their ego's in the way of receiving my coaching or we're taking in this outside advice. What kind of things have you learned that have helped you do that in the past and give you confidence about doing that in the future when you come across a player like that?
Well, I always talk about we use a format that I really came up with when I was a high school coach. Is listen, learn, apply, the LLA format. So listen is like accepting the coaching. All right, you have to be receptive to the information. Learn is I'm going to be a student of the game. I'm going to take the information that I learned and go gather more knowledge and then apply. You know, football is simple. It's about making and creating plays. And then, you know, there's 4 phases of learning. Everybody learns kind of differently. You know, there's the visual, there's the audio, and then there's the reading and writing, and then there's the actual kinesthetic, the doing. You know, so for me, it's like you don't always have to be like, I had Kayla Newton, for example. He was just like me. We shared the same. He's one of the first players I've been around. He was a quarterback that worked out like I did, like to the point where I was like, all right, let me figure out some things where he doesn't hurt his body. So he would swim. Instead of doing another running workout, he would swim. He would watch film. He would write it down. Like, instead of just like killing your body nonstop, we found other things to do to circumvent his want to be great. Because, you know, his goal was to be better than his brother and he wanted to be the greatest. And his mind was just so driven on that. And, you know, one of the first guys that I've been around that was like that, like that would really, you know, he would be in the facility with me at midnight watching film. So, you know, that was one of the guys where I really had to like pull him back a little bit, and he understood. I told him, you know, your body's all you got, and you have to find other ways to get better, not just pounding on yourself all the time.
Do we have any final questions?
Which coaching stop was that, Brennan?
At Howard.
Brennan, beyond, you know, Pitt, I mean, do you have aspirations of getting to Power 5 coordinator status one day, head coach? Is that kind of on your mind, you know, going forward in your career?
No doubt. I mean, anytime that you always have to have aspirations to be the best version of yourself. And I feel like that's the next phase in my maturation process.